So I spent a lot of my time just holding State Department's feet to the fire, making sure our tax dollars are providing the services that they're supposed to be providing, and that we're making good decisions about what to do with scarce resources. But like everybody else, I get 5 bills, and I'm always full of ideas and things I want to do. You may have read about the first bill I've introduced. The governor mentioned it in his State of the State speech last week. That's the Civil Unions Bill. We came within 1 vote of passing it last year, and I'm very hopeful that maybe we can get it through, past that hurdle this year. And so that's Senate Bill 2. It's already been introduced. I have been working for a number of years on criminal justice reform, and particularly drug policy. I'm on a task force that includes the Arapahoe County Sheriff and representatives of district attorneys and defense attorneys. And we've done a lot of work on starting to slowly head down a different path in terms of how we deal with illegal drug use, and trying to decriminalize some of it, but also realize that a lot of this comes from the real problem is addiction. And to the extent that we can deal with somebody's substance use disorder in a medical model rather than viewing it as a criminal justice issue that requires punishment and prison, we can really get to the root of the problem by providing drug treatment instead of a prison cell. And so a couple of years ago, we actually changed a lot of the sentencing laws to just lessen the sentences and take a lot of drug possession offenses, and instead of them being felonies, now they're going to be misdemeanors. That means you don't go to prison. It means you may go to county jail for a little while, but more than likely you're going to be on probation. And while you're on probation, we're going to take the money that we saved by not putting you in a prison cell and provide you with drug treatment. So try to actually help people, overcome dependency and addiction and get their life back on track and stay out of the criminal justice system. So that was a couple of years ago we made that sentencing change, and we've been doing little bills to kind of build on that every year. This year I will have a bill that will actually, it's very technical, and it mostly has to do with how all the money flows and gets allocated. It will simplify all that to reduce some of the bureaucracy about allocating those drug treatment dollars, but it will also build in a little bit more accountability for the community programs that are providing treatment, so that we can see the outcomes we're getting, and we can start to learn more about what sorts of programs work best for what sorts of people's addictions. And we can start to have data to prove to the law enforcement world and the criminal justice world that this reallocation of resources for treatment rather than incarceration is working, and that we ought to continue down that path. And so I think it's a very important bill to keep our reforms on track. One of the other criminal justice related bills that also gets into the issue of employment, because I think the thing you're going to hear most from everyone at the Capitol this year is the need to deal with our unemployment rates and get our economy going again. And the jobs agenda that Representative Ferrandino describes is a good example of that. I've got a bill that's looking particularly at people who have a criminal record but are trying, again, to get on that path to recovery, to get their life back together, and overcome some of the barriers that people with a record find when they apply for a job, or they apply for housing, or they apply for other assistance programs. That criminal record, if you've got a felony on your record, it's not just 1 strike against you, it's 3 strikes, you're out, the way things work today. And so I've been working for a couple of years on this issue of bringing back a bill that would allow people with a record to go to court and ask a judge to remove certain barriers from their path so that they can go back to practicing a profession. For instance, if you had a license to practice nursing and you were a nurse and you got in trouble with the law and maybe did some time in prison, we don't let you have your nursing license anymore. And so you get out of prison, and what are you supposed to do for a living? Now, if the offense had something to do with, you were stealing prescription drugs in the hospital or something like some nurses have done, we're not going to give that person back their license. But if it's something where restoring a nursing license to somebody means they can stay employed and be productive and stay out of trouble, that's helping people get back on the right path and put their lives back together. And there are so many people that have these barriers in housing or employment because of a past criminal record. And by providing individual case-by-case relief, hopefully, we can take some of those barriers out of people's paths. I have another bill that has to do with counties that have pension plans that are running into a little bit of trouble. Public pensions across the country, this has been an issue with all the things that happened with their investment portfolios and the stock market. We did a big reform a couple of years ago on the state pension plan, PERA, but there are a number of counties that run their independent pension plans that aren't part of PERA, and they want to have the same opportunities to try to address some of their potential unfunded liabilities. This is going to be a little controversial, but in my mind, helping these pension plans stabilize their financial position provides retirement security for all the people that have already retired or all the workers that are paying into the system today. And there's a situation where you ask people to make a little bit of sacrifice for the long-term stability and security of the entire system. And I think that's in the public interest. It also